John Severson just happened to be filming while Mickey was goofing around having fun being Mickey, and suddenly one of the most iconic images and styles in surfing history was born forever. The incredible statue Bill created captures not just a surfing pose, but the spirit of joy individually and fun that Mickey brought to surfing and to life itself. Mickey, you've always carried this incredible energy, kindness, curiosity, and sense of fun that makes everyone around you feel lucky to know you. And while everyone honored here has their own important story and contribution to the Waterman lifestyle, it's pretty amazing to still see you out there charging your favorite East Cape break with the exact same stoke and spirit you've had your entire life. For all the stories, the laughs, the inspirations, the adventures, and the friendship over the years, thank you. You've lived life most people could only dream about, and somehow, through it all, you've remained one of the most genuine, humble, and joyful people anyone could ever meet. Cheers to you, Mickey.
Mickey has been my co-pilot on lots of adventures, from driving to Park City, Utah, to stand-up paddle in lakes and rivers, to stopping in Las Vegas for an overnight stay on our way home. We had to do it because Mickey's never been to Las Vegas. So we had a nice room booked for us, and we roll in, and I just remember we're on like the 40th floor, and we go up and looking out the window, and we thought we were like rock stars. We see the fountain shooting up and all the lights and the craziness of Vegas, and it was a pretty cool moment doing it with him because it was his first time to Vegas. Other things I remember: blasting up the coast to paddle race under the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. Of course, stopping to surf at Rincon. And this surf at Rincon really stands out to me. One, it was myself, Mickey, my son Dax was probably 11 or 12 at the time. And we were surfing First Point Rincon by ourselves, nobody out. The waves were flat to knee high, but we were having fun. And we surfed for probably hour and a half. And I get a wave, I come in, and one of the guys that's kind of hanging out at the pit crew there at First Point Rincon comes walking down to me and says, "Hey, normally we don't like those kind of boards ridden out here." And he was referring to, I was on a stand-up board and Mickey was on a stand-up board. And but then he said, "Wow, you guys are making it look good. Looks like you're having lots of fun. And by the way, is that Mickey Muñoz out there?" I'm like, "Yeah, it is." And so he proceeds to get another wave, and he comes in. And next thing I know, he's walking up the beach, and I look, and now all the dudes hanging out in the pit crew area, they're all coming down to, slap Mickey a high five and talk story. And next thing I know, they're all handing me their cell phones to take pictures of them with Mickey. So that session, even though it was, like I said, flat to knee high, that's a surf session that I'll always remember. We've had lots of trips up and down the Baja Peninsula. For a few years, we had a really fun job together, chasing a race car for the Baja 1000. We would take the drivers where they needed to be, take them to their pre-run routes. This just meant Mickey and I got to cruise all around Baja, and we thought it was a great time. But the one thing we did, we always picked the spot where we were going to post up based around a surf spot. Then we could just hang out, ride waves, and wait for the car to show up whenever it did. It was a great time just kicking back in the dirt, talking story, and just really enjoying time. The most recent adventure was a special one, just a few months ago. Picking Mickey up at 4:30 a.m. the day after Christmas. Myself, Mickey riding shotgun, my daughter and my youngest son with us, the other boys to follow in their trucks. So our trip to the tip of Baja starts here in Capo Beach at 4:30 a.m. We stopped at our favorite taco stands, stopped in our favorite towns. We stayed at our favorite hotel, swam in the beautiful turquoise water in Conception Bay, hung out on beautiful beaches, watching our dogs run and play in the water, eventually making it to the tip and dropping Mickey off at his home in Zacatitos. Funny story. A few days later, after settling in, I overhear a mutual friend of Mickey and I ask my daughter Ezra, who's 19 years old and was riding down with us, "What was it like being in the car with your dad and Mickey for days driving down here?" And she said, "Well, the stereo, to listen to music got turned on one time, maybe made it through half a song and turned off. And they talked surf, design, shaping, fins, cactuses, where every dirt road led for 1,000 miles, where every surf spot was and how to get there. They were like two little kids talking story, talking surf all the way down. I get to be lucky enough to still share waves with Mickey at his favorite points in the desert, hang on the beach, have a beer, and talk shop as the sun goes down. That's what Mickey brings out. Pure joy, pure adventure, pure stoke. Mickey has been called the surfer surfer. He is a surfboard shaper and designer. He is a pioneer in Waimea Bay and big wave surfing. He is a sailor and a boat builder. He sailed and raced all over the world with world-class sailors. He is the ultimate California waterman. He is my dear friend. He is my idol. Let's all make some noise as I ask Mickey to come on up.
I'm in shock. Well, first, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for coming here. I'm totally honored and flattered and holy shit. One of the best small wave writers in the world lived with me, Bobby Patterson, the Flea, and Bobby and I were living in Santa Monica Canyon, and we would drive to Rincon in the winter. On the way up, we would, if overhead was good, we'd stop at overhead, we'd paddle out at overhead, and one of our rituals was we'd try and paddle one side, one person on one side of the peak, the other on the other side, let a wave break in between us, and look at each other through the film. So if that happened, we had a good day. Then we'd go to Rincon, we'd ride Rincon till it blew out. Then we'd saddle up again and drive back down PCH and stop at Arroyo Secos, which always held the wind and was a fun break. So the Flea and I stopped, went down, we're in the water, riding waves. John Severson is about a half an hour behind us. We didn't know it. He saw our car, he stopped, gets out of his car, takes his, tripod and clamps his Bolex camera on it, winds it up and starts shooting. And, I get in some ridiculous short break that I'm not going to make. And this was sort of a spontaneous thing I did. And he got a color shot of it on 16 millimeter film. So, in those days, it wasn't instant gratification like it is now. You shoot something with your phone and you're looking at it a second later. This was 2-3 weeks getting the film developed, and then back to John, and he had a little office in Capo Beach. And so he calls me up and he said, would you like to look at the film I shot? I go, heck yes. So John's, we go in and he's got the 16 millimeter film rolled up on a reel, and it goes through what's called a moviola, which has a little screen about this big. The film goes through it, and he takes it up on the other end. And if you want to cut a portion of that film out, you can cut it and splice it. And anyway, that's how we made film. So we're looking at it, and I can't remember, John was really a good artist, and he had a great eye. And we're both looking at this last ditch dance in the shore break. And we rolled it back and forth and finally froze it on one frame and went, that looks really good. And then a year later, John published the first surfer magazine and featured a bunch of stances. And the reason we did sort of stances is we had Malibu, which was a perfect wave, nobody out except us, a few of us. And just to put each other on, we would, try different stances. And some of them came propagated from going to the bullfights in Tijuana. And, there was the El Telefono and so forth. So anyway, John thought it looked like the Quasimoto of Notre Dame. So that's what we named it. And he misspelled it perfectly so he wouldn't get in some kind of copyright trouble. And so that's how it was born. And I do have to say it was blown up from 16 millimeter color film into black and white. So it came kind of fuzzy, but that was one of its charm. And it was not perfect. It was kind of digitized at the time. So, and it just appealed to a bunch of people, so, No, but I have another, actually I have another pretty good story, if you're not bored. And, Corky Carroll is part of this story, so as Jeff said, I doubled Gidget in the first Gidget movie, Sandra Dee. Tried to teach her how to surf, and that didn't work. And so I look good in a bikini. So my mind is, I used to look good in a bikini, but now my skin is wrinkled in my teeth. Anyway, so because I did that film work. I spent a whole summer working on that film. I got into SAG, into the Actors Union, which is kind of a hard deal to get into. And so I got in it, and I just did not like Hollywood. So I never really used it, except once in a while I'd get a call, and I got a call for an interview. And the interview was in San Fernando Valley, and I went. The people that wanted to interview me said, "Well, we've got so 3 or 4 other people. All 3 of them or 4 of them were actors, real actors, as well as surfers." And I said, I'm going to drive 2.5 hours to go there, and I'm not going to get this thing. It's ridiculous." And so I hung up, and then I called Corky, and Corky went, I made a hell of a lot of money on the commercial I did. He bought a brand new Porsche for me. So he said, maybe you better call him back and figure something else out. So I called him back, and I said, well, look, why don't you come down here, and I'll line up some other people that you can interview, and it'll be more comfortable for surfers, right? So they called me back later and said, sounds great. We'll send down producer, a film guy, and a sound guy. And you line it up, and I did, and we met at San Onofre, and we all did interviews. And 2 hours or 3 hours after we did the interview, they called me back and they said, we want you. Come up for costume, etc. So I now drive to Hollywood, and I go through that. And I had one more interview, up there, which I did because I could get there in an hour and 15. And I did the interview, and anyway, I drive back home, and I get the call, you're on. So then I drive back up, get costume, etc. And then we're filming this thing at Arroyo Secos, where this was born. So I spent 2 days up there, and the last day, the sun's going down, it's crowded, they can't kick anybody out of the water, and so, you know, I've got to go out and fend for myself. So I go out and I ride a few waves, and the producer, the director on the beach goes, hey, you know, one more wave, you know, sun's going down, we're losing light. So I go, why not? So I take off in this wave, and in the very end, I do the, you know, Quasimoto, and I actually kind of make this wave and straighten out and go to the beach. I don't fall off, and I get to the beach, and the entire crew is on their knees. Bowing, so I mean, I couldn't buy a Porsche out of it, believe me. I got a few $100, but thank you, Corky. That was a special treat. And Corky, by the way, is my diamond in the rough. His mom trusted me to take him surfing, and he was a rascal, but I could see his potential, and we became really, really good friends. And yeah, thank you, Corky. Yeah, and Steve, thank you for, you know, you were the second, weren't you the second editor of Surfer? I believe so, after John retired. Yeah. So Steve wrote me a little note and said, yeah, you can use the Quasimoto for whatever you want, you know. And when I was semi-entrepreneurial or whatever, I made business cards with my Quasimoto. Yeah.